Hurricane Helene has caused unprecedented, devastating damage in western North Carolina, eastern Georgia, and other parts of the southeast and Appalachia. And it's not lost on me that that could have been me. That storm came through my city and barely missed us. And I've lived in the southeast for a long time, and hurricanes aren't supposed to do this far inland. So today we're going to talk about what happened with Helene, preps that some people on Reddit have been posting that have been helpful for them during this crisis, and how $30 can save your life. Hey everybody, my name is Brian with Prepping for Everyone, and today we're going to talk about Hurricane Helene, the situation that's still going on as I'm recording this, and how various preps that people have done have saved their lives and saved the lives of their community and others around them. This hurricane came up through the Gulf of Mexico, and if you haven't seen how devastating this has been inland, I want you to take a look here at this radar imagery of the precipitation and just how far inland this major storm really got. You can see here it comes up from the Gulf of Mexico and through the panhandle of Florida and into Georgia. I'm located in North Georgia, and we had the hatches battened down. We were ready to do whatever we had to do to stay safe. We got really lucky. We got a lot of rain, but we didn't have any damage on the property. There was some power out in the city, but that's pretty typical of almost any bigger storm that we get here. But as it moved further north into the mountains, into Appalachia and western North Carolina and the Augusta area, they were not so lucky.
The full extent of Helene's destructive toll just now coming into focus.
We have no water, we have no power.
After the rising waters rushed through these communities, forcing some to puncture holes in their roofs just to escape their homes. New satellite images show how floodwaters overwhelmed the French Broad River, and video showing dramatic landslides in the mountains, all causing widespread destruction.
Now, obviously, this is just absolutely terrifying and devastating, and people are showing up and helping the families and doing what they can. You should do so as well if you're able. There are a lot of funds accepting donations. People from my town have been driving up to bring supplies to the people in Asheville, especially, which is a city that has been hit really hard. And it's so heartbreaking. You know, I have such a love for Appalachia and for especially Western North Carolina. And I mean, regardless of where you live, this shouldn't happen. And this is a once in a 1,000-year flood. That's what it's being called. One of the silver linings, if we can call it that here, is that there are a lot of preppers out there, and they have been posting on Reddit talking about preps of theirs that have worked and have kept them safe and saved their lives, and some stuff that they wish they had done or that it didn't quite work out how they thought it would. So I want to go over from the preppers subreddit, talk about some of the posts there, and then go into my own experience and what we were doing before the storm, and how I prepared using some of my stuff. I'm going to start off with a really thorough one from a user called Ascertaining Stalt. I hope I'm saying that right. Outline some preps that work and some things that didn't work. We keep canned food we like to eat in rotation. Some of it is low or no cook. We were able to put commonly used refrigerated items on ice. We have a camp stove and an adapter so we can use the propane tank from our grill. This has been a great item to have. We've been eating crackers and peanut butter, applesauce pouches and snack cups, general school stacks like packs of cheese or chips, ham and cheese sandwiches. For warm food, we've had quesadillas and black beans, eggs and toast, burgers, chickpeas, couscous, and so on and so on. I really want to emphasize how important eating things we like and are normal for us has been great for morale. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about morale and keeping your morale up during an emergency, especially if you have kids who are terrified. So keep that in mind. The biggest and best prep we did, which I will now never live without, is to get a ham radio and extra batteries. They've been able to get messages out to folks who didn't have cell service. They coordinated a more emergency response to places first responders couldn't reach. They're giving tips about gas and groceries we couldn't otherwise get. The local emergency dispatch had to use a ham radio repeater because their connection to the radio tower depended on internet they don't have. The local radio station used hamsters to get word to their federal partners to get back online. The importance of this connection for our mental health and peace of mind cannot be overstated. Not only if you're talking on the radio, if you're in this emergency, you probably feel really isolated. So not only are you getting the help that you need or coordinating help, but you're able to reach out to another human being. And I think that can't be understated. One important prep I don't always see mentioned that continues to be valuable is knowing your neighbors and sowing community goodwill. This is another thing you're going to hear a lot about. Rescue crews can't get to us. It's neighbors that are creating charging stations off their electric vehicles. It's neighbors who offered us a lasagna after they had to clean it out of their freezer. It's neighbors who are helping clean up debris and helping us entertain our kids. It's neighbors who have set up a community message board to get things to those who didn't or can't. Prep. Keep in mind, members of your community, some of them are disabled. Some of them can't do the types of prep that I'm able to do. Hopefully you're able to do. And so your prepping can genuinely help someone who is helpless like that. Not just your family, but a whole community has to come together. We're gonna see more of that coming up. Things that didn't work. I wish I had downloaded more videos on my phone and the Kitty tablet. Entertaining young kids while you're mentally and emotionally zapped is a nightmare. Having a respite like that would have been a great tool. Again, morale, right? I wish I had gotten out some cash. Last time grocery store internet went down in our area, they just shut down the store and wouldn't sell us anything. Hard cash. If there's no internet, there is no card. There's no Visa. Keep some money around for situations like this. Another user named definitely not Dia _ had recently drove through Western North Carolina to help out and wanted to talk about some things that they had seen while they were up there firsthand. There was an absolute abundance of people freely traveling and delivering supplies and providing assistance. This is community, right? We did not see a single roadblock or government presence of any type besides local law enforcement. What we did see, though, was communities coming together to help each other and be there for their fellow neighbors. I saw multiple aid stations set up by local businesses, paying it forward to the people who keep them in business by buying local. I did not see a single FEMA vehicle. I didn't see any troops. This is not to say that FEMA isn't doing anything out there or that the National Guard isn't doing anything out there. Definitely, there are people out there, first responders, who are trying to help, and we don't want to diminish that fact. But something this has really taught me, and I think this is a lesson we learned during Katrina as well. They're calling this the new Katrina, by the way. That's how bad things are. But something that we've learned is that you can't necessarily count on the response of the federal government. You're really counting on your preps, your neighbors, your community. And so if you haven't had these conversations with your neighbors or people close by to you and made a plan for preparedness, now's a really good wake-up call and a good time to do it. Another user named Luffy Haymaker is talking about how they don't really consider themselves a prepper, but they're in Georgia, and as this hurricane came through, they realized that even though they're just an Uber driver and they have simple preps, it counts. So I'm in Georgia, and we just went through, quote unquote, that event, Helene. But now we have the chemical fires. Yeah, a chemical plant exploded the day after, close to us and outside of Atlanta, and that's a whole other thing. And I was freaking out because I was like, I'll need food and supplies. And then I thought about it. I have water, a bunch that could last a month, maybe more. I have food, a lot of dried foods and canned goods. I have enough foods with fiber and, okay, something about a laxative, we'll skip that. I have protein. I have about a month's supply of my meds. I guess I am a prepper after all. I always identify with the movement, but I always saw myself as a baby prepper at best compared to people with a lot of money. I'm just a delivery driver for Uber Eats, but honestly, I'm good. Maybe I'm a decent prepper after all. And this is a really good thing to see and to realize, is that it doesn't take a lot of work to get the really basic stuff in. And we'll cover more specifics in future videos, but you're getting some ideas already, right? Food, water, communication, morale boosting, entertainment, things like that. Now, one interesting chat about communication that I think is really important for people to know about. The Apple on their new iPhone just released a feature that allegedly you're supposed to be able to text when there's no cell service through satellites and get in contact with people. User JPhoto tried to do that during an emergency. I spent the weekend in the wake of the hurricane, and long story short is that I bought a $1,500 iPhone 16 Pro the day it was available to replace my Garmin InReach for emergencies. Garmin InReach is another satellite communications device. It's about $300, and you can send text messages, emails, even when there's no internet grid down situation. It uses satellites to do a similar thing that iPhone says they're supposed to be doing. Not only did the iPhone satellite messaging never work once out of dozens of attempts, and despite following every single simple instruction it gave me, I also heard the same from every single one of my friends in the area with phones new enough to try it. The old Garmin worked every time, and I was able to reunite with my significant other, connect with family and a client, and make it to a job that I couldn't miss outside the city the following day through the gas shortage and total communication blackout. If you think that new fancy iPhone's going to save you, it sounds like that's a really, really misguided purchase, I would say. And so that Garmin InReach sounds like a great situation, especially if you're somebody who goes outdoors and in the wilderness a lot. That seems like a really good thing to have. Now we're going to talk about ham radio, and this is going to be a bit of a pivot into my ham radio experience. I am a licensed operator, and more of the experience of exactly how ham operators help the people in Western North Carolina. From a user named Saka7 posted an article from the ARRL. That's a loose collection of amateur radio enthusiasts, basically. It's not government affiliated, but it's the most official thing that we have that is beyond the FCC. And they stated, ham radio was the only functional tool for communication until cellular on wheels trucks and satellite internet terminals were deployed after several days of near total grid down. That's $30, by the way. Radio amateurs have stepped up to serve, but they didn't rise to the occasion. They relied on their training. Rest assured, the success of these hams in passing critical information as well as health and welfare traffic didn't just happen. They were trained, experienced, and ready. In my words, they were prepped. User named AnyLocal5316. I just delivered fuel to my family back home. My uncle was a prepper and is why we were able to come find them safe. They were well prepared. Ham radio stocked on fuel and canned foods, generators, but are low on morale boosters and only accessible by foot. I always talk about how if you go on prepper subreddits or to some account, my account, that everyone's going to have an opinion that's going to be different about what prepping looks like for them, or what you have to do, or you have to get a Faraday cage for your generator, yada, yada, yada. And maybe they're not wrong. But the best source of information for how to be prepared is by listening to people who have been through emergencies that you want to prepare for. And this has been so illuminating this week on Reddit. So let's talk about how in North Carolina, these $30 radios saved lives and helped people get in contact.
Angela, we all know that storms can damage cell phone towers like that, knocking out a lot of communications. But even when that happens, a ham radio as small as this can help relay messages when people are looking for loved ones. But we've seen the devastation in Western North Carolina, and with that kind of damage, a lot of families are still waiting for word.
This is a VHF, UHF, HT handy talkie or walkie-talkie. It's a ham radio. It is a short-range device with a range of about 10 to 15 miles. We call it line of sight as far as the range goes, and that doesn't mean far line of sight, but like this is not going to get me to Texas or anything like that. But one of the things that hams do is they set up what are called repeaters, and we've got local ones here, and I've got them programmed into this. And repeaters, maybe it's 5 miles away from me, and it's 5 miles away from a guy who is too far for me to talk to directly, we can talk to each other through that repeater. It takes in our signal and then rebroadcasts it. And this is how people are getting in contact with these little radios in Western North Carolina. The Mount Mitchell repeater has been talked about a lot. There are a couple of hams on there who are trained in emergency ham radio use, who have been talking to licensed and unlicensed people who are in emergencies, helping to get emergency responders there, helping to get supplies there, giving tips about where gas and food are, helping to get in contact with these people's family members and say, hey, this person contacted me on the radio. They just want you to know that they're safe and this is their situation, right? If I call in, if I'm the emergency operator and someone calls in a crisis and tells me how to contact their people, I can do that for them. If I have internet, let's say, the grid isn't necessarily down for me, but it's down for them. And so this $30 tool is saving lives, and you can get one too. Now, except for in an emergency, you have to be a licensed ham radio technician to use these. It's an easy test. Some people don't want to do it. I think it's worth it to know your tools, and we'll talk about this in a future video. But in an emergency, you don't have to be authorized or have a ham radio license to use this. You should know how to use it and have the repeaters programmed in. But it's worth picking one up for $30, I think. If the grid down situation happens, ham radio works. And this is rechargeable by USB-C, which means I can plug it into a power bank, to my computer, a generator if you have one. I think these are worth every single penny. So for me, I think it was the night before the hurricane, I decided I was going to check into our local repeaters just to see who's around and just make sure that we have basic communications, and that, you know, if something were to happen, I know there's people out there. And I did. I talked to a couple of people, and that was nice. Because of the amateur radio subreddit, I was able to see that people had set up what are called nets, a couple of nets on the HF range of radios. HF is this. You can put it in your car, but it's generally less mobile. This is my home station, right? This is not a little walkie-talkie. This is a big thing. I've got a huge antenna outside up in my trees, and I have talked to Europe, California. It is a very, very huge long-distance communication tool, and that's the reason that I bought it. So I got on 7.232 megahertz. It's in the 40-meter band. There was another net in the 20-meter band as well. I couldn't get into it, or I didn't try too hard, I guess. And I just called to check in, and they were accepting comms checks, or if you were in an emergency, they would accept that too. I did a comms check. Some very, very talented, wonderful hams were there running things, making sure everyone could communicate. And that's a huge thing, right? If you have this, but you don't know a frequency, you can communicate to a loved one or whoever on, it's not useless, but it's less useful, let's say. I checked in, my comms worked. I knew that, if we were in a situation where maybe we had power, but we were stuck or something like that, I have multiple options to talk to people at least. And listen and help others. Maybe I'm not stuck. Maybe I'm good, but my neighbors down the road are just absolutely stuck. So I can either listen to the repeater. There's lots of options. Let's just put it that way. These HF radios are a little more expensive. This is a low-end one, and it was about, I think, high 300s, maybe $400. I think about all the time, like if I could get my father-in-law to get one, that it would be great, because if there was a serious, let's say a nuclear war or whatever, there was a total grid down situation, we could contact each other and say, hey, we're safe, everyone's okay. Or we need help, send help, please. So that's some of the reasons why I have these radios. I think that the HF radio is a worthwhile investment for everyone. Anyone who vaguely wants to be prepared, you should get one. Your technician license, you can study for it in about 12 hours. It's, I have to pay $35 to the FCC and take an online test. It's not too bad. I'll put some links below in the description. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please hit like and subscribe. I got a lot more content coming. I've been doing a lot of prepping and research, and I want to share it all with you. Just for normal people, $30 can save your life, save the life of your family. Thank you to everyone on the Prepper subreddit and the Amateur Radio subreddit. Thank you so much to all the hams who have been volunteering out there to get people safe. Thank you to everyone who's been driving up. Donate to a local fund if you're able. I'll link one in the description below as well. Thanks so much, and y'all have a good one.